Hey, how we doing, sports bettors? Matt Modi here with OddsJam, and I'm going to talk to you about one of the most profitable betting strategies that you can use. It is just using the OddsJam screen for line shopping. So the OddsJam screen, very easy to get to. You just go to oddsjam.com. You see the button for screen right here. You can filter for different sports. You can filter for different markets within that sport. And what it does, it's an odds screen that shows you odds for every single sports book and every single market depending on what you are betting. So what I have up here is the player passing yards market for the NFL, obviously. And just going through this page, you can identify some insanely valuable plays to add into or to bet or to add into a PrizePicks or Underdog selection or Thrive fantasy as well. It's just insane having all of this information on one screen where you can identify sports books that have pricing discrepancies and immediately take advantage of them. It's also cool to do this live. As soon as lines change, it'll highlight on the screen, and then you can immediately tell where stale lines are using the OddsJam screen. So let me show you examples of what I'm talking about. In the first one, right here, Marcus Mariota passing yards. So if we scroll through, and let me make my camera a little bit smaller so you can see these top two sports books. Let's just go through what we see. FanDuel has it at 187, as does BetMGM. Caesars at 190, BetRivers at 190, FoxBet 187, Pinnacle 190, Tipico 187, ding, 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 PrizePicks 180. Every other book has it priced at a minimum 7 yards higher than what PrizePicks has. And then Caesars, again, at 190. Immediately, we can identify this is a great play to add into a PrizePicks entry over 180.5 passing yards. Every single other book has it priced at a minimum 7 yards higher, which is just insane. We've also identified a good bet to make, taking his under 191.5 passing yards. Pinnacle Sportsbook, what you see right here, is the sharpest sportsbook in the world in terms of pricing odds. So you can kind of use Pinnacle as the source of truth when it comes to pricing odds. DraftKings is also pretty good with player props specifically. Now, obviously, they don't have odds up for Marcus Mariota, but what we see here is that Pinnacle Sportsbook has his total at 190.5, and they heavily favor the under. If you look at the odds, the under is priced at minus 129. The over is priced at minus 101. So not only is it priced a yard lower, but they're heavily favoring it to go under. So this tells me that this is a great bet to make on Marcus Mariota going under 191.5 rushing yards. So I'm going to go ahead, passing yards. So I'm going to go ahead to BetRivers, and I'm going to lock this bet in because I have used the OddsJam screen to identify an awesome play. It's also a great play to add to a PrizePicks entry. Unfortunately, the state I'm located in, I cannot use PrizePicks, but this is how you can use the screen to just find insanely profitable either bets to make or selections to put into a PrizePicks or Underdog or Thrive entry. So let's just keep scrolling. That was literally the second quarterback that we found the discrepancy. Let's just keep scrolling. So Lamar Jackson, nothing here. Jacoby Brissett, a little bit of value if you want to take him to go over 215.5, but not crazy. Where I'm seeing some pretty crazy value is on Ryan Tannehill. And again, taking advantage of PrizePicks. They have it priced at 208.5. The closest other book, the closest one, is at 216, 8 yards higher. And that's another daily fantasy sports company as well, an Underdog Fantasy, showing you why it's important to not just have one. So don't just have PrizePicks, but have Thrive, have Underdog, have Monkey Knife Fight, all of these books. And we see Pinnacle prices it at 220, and they favor the under. So this is also a good play to add on BetMGM, taking his under 221.5 and taking it to go under. Now, it's not as good of a play as the Marcus Mariota one, because A, you're sacrificing a little bit worse odds at minus 120, and the way it's favored to go under is not as big of a favorite as the Marcus Mariota one is, minus 126 versus minus 129. And last thing, 1 yard difference becomes less meaningful the higher the yards go. So the difference between between 191 and 190, it's only 1 yard difference, but it's 30 yards higher than the 221 and the 220. Still a good play on the 221. It's just not as valuable of a bet. So maybe you put a little bit less on that one. But let me go in. I'm going to go ahead and lock this one in as well. Unfortunately, BetMGM has me limited. So even if I wanted to put 50 on it, they probably won't let me. Looks like they will let me get $35.22 on this one, which is what I will put on this one. And another play that I have identified as a really good one to put, PrizePicks. In this case, we were actually going to take an under now, but we were looking at Taylor Heineke to go under 223.5 passing yards. Pinnacle has it at 220, so 3 yards lower, and every other book has it either 220 or below. It's actually a pretty good line to take his over on FanDuel, over 213.5, or it's an even better line to take his over on WinBet at 211.5. It's a 9-yard gap between what WinBet has and what Pinnacle has between 211 and 220. And it's a 12-yard gap if you look at PrizePicks. So with numbers this wide apart, one, if not both, is going to be a good play. One of these is going to be valuable, if not both. In this case, both of them is valuable. And the reason why we know this is literally because we just took advantage of all of these different sports books and said, okay, majority of books think it should be about 220. Well, one is an outlier at 223. Another one is an outlier at 211. Now, this is definitely the biggest gap, the 211 to 220. So this is a more valuable play. So this one is worth more than what I put on the other two. So this one is worth maybe a $75 play instead of the 50 that I put on the previous two. But overall, using the OddsJam screen line shopping for pricing discrepancies is just an insane way to find discrepancies and to find profitable bets or selections, whatever you want to call, to put into place. And these are only, I've looked at like 4 quarterbacks in one prop. If we want to look at like receiving yards, we can look at the same exact thing. Now, the discrepancies aren't going to be as wide because the difference between like passing yards and rushing yards is obviously incredibly high. But we see a good one right here on A.J. Dillon, his under receiving yards. Thrive, Underdog, and PrizePicks have it at 10.5. Every other book has it at 9.5, a yard lower. And a yard for numbers this low is a very big deal. It's like a 10% difference from 9.5 to 10.5. And Pinnacle Sportsbook favors, the under at this number. So they think, even though we are pricing this a yard lower, we think that it's more likely that it goes under. So just going through using the OddsJam screen to find these discrepancies, I could go all day, and I'll find a couple more just to show you how valuable it is. But hopefully you watching this at home understand the process behind it, why it makes sense, and how to use it. Again, it's very easy. Just go to oddsjam.com and then click screen, and then you can click different plays. We could even go to the NBA if we wanted to. So I've been looking obviously only at the NFL. Let's look at the NBA. So I have the NBA up here. How about we look for discrepancies in the total points market? Instead of looking at player props, let's look at total points. And we can see right here the best odds on the over and on the under, which is pretty cool. So you can immediately identify which sports books have something mispriced. Like this play right here. You can get the under at 220.5, which is what Pinnacle has it at. And you can look at other sharp sports books like Bookmaker and BetOnline, other sharp sports books pricing odds, or you can take the over at 219, which is on DraftKings. If Pinnacle has this at 220.5, DraftKings has it at a full 1.5 lower. That is a pretty good play. Looks like BetOnline has it at 220, as does Bookmaker. This would be a good over. The Pistons Knicks, this would be a good over to take on DraftKings. If you want to keep going, we can look at the difference, 230 to 229, 224.5 to 223.5, 226.5 to 225.5. Just going across the board, finding these plays is just insane value. So hopefully this video has made sense to you. So what I want you to do watching this, go to OddsJam.com, check out the screen, and start finding profitable bets to place for yourself. But that is it. So if you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. Let me know. Other than that, I appreciate you guys watching, and have a good one.